Grab your togas, polish your logic skills. We're going to head to the Agora to experience the thoughts of some of the earliest, and I mean earliest, Western philosophers. These pre-Socratic thinkers, they really laid the groundwork for all of Western philosophy. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why they're the OGs, original Grecians, of critical thinking. And you might never look at water the same again. So let's set the stage, the dawn of Western philosophy. Imagine, it's the 6th century BC in ancient Greece, the Mediterranean is sparkling, olives are abundant, and a bunch of really smart guys are about to start asking some seriously big questions. These thinkers, known as the pre-Socratics, were the first to try to explain the world through reason and observation rather than myth and superstition. It's like they collectively decided, you know what? Maybe Zeus isn't throwing those lightning bolts after all. Cue the collective Greek gasp. The pre-Socratics were primarily concerned with questions about the nature of reality, the origin of the universe, and the fundamental substance of all things. They were the ancient Greek version of those kids who never stopped asking why. Except instead of driving their parents crazy, they ended up laying the foundation for all Western philosophy and science. So, let's meet our cast of characters, shall we? First up, we have Thales of Miletus. He is widely considered the first Western philosopher. So imagine being so ahead of your time that you get credit for inventing an entire field of study. Well, that's Thales for you. So his key ideas was first, water as the arche. Just means basic principle, think metaphysics, epistemology. It's all about the origin of things. And Thales proposed that water was the fundamental substance of all things. And so it's like he looked at the world and thought, you know what? Everything's just really wet. Now, this might sound silly to us now, but it was revolutionary at the time. He was suggesting that there was a single natural explanation for the diversity of the world rather than a pantheon of gods causing everything. Second was the earth floats on water. He believed that the earth was a flat disk floating on a vast ocean. It's like he imagined the world as a giant lily pad. While not accurate, he was trying to explain earthquakes and the stability of the earth using natural rather than supernatural explanations. And then prediction of a solar eclipse. Legend has it that Thales predicted a solar eclipse in 585 BC. Whether it's true or not, it shows that he was interested in astronomical phenomenon and sought natural explanations for them. Some fun facts about Thales. He was one of the 7 sages of Greece, a group of ancient Greek philosophers, statesmen, and lawgivers who were renowned for their wisdom. He's credited with introducing the scientific method to Greece after studying in Egypt. Thales once fell into a well while stargazing, prompting a servant girl to laugh at him for being so focused on the heavens that he couldn't see what was at his feet. It's the ancient Greek version of walking into a lamppost while texting. And Thales' importance can't be overstated. He was the first person in the Western tradition to look for universal principles to explain the natural order of the world rather than relying on mythology. It's like he was the first person to say, guys, maybe we should think about this stuff rationally instead of thinking that Poseidon is throwing a temper tantrum. Next up is Anaximander. He was a student of Thales who took his teacher's ideas and just sort of ran with them in a completely different direction. The first is the apeiron. He proposed that the fundamental substance wasn't water or any observable substance, but something he called the apeiron, meaning the unlimited or the boundless. It's like he looked at Thales' water and thought, nah, too wet, let's go with something we can't see, touch, or define. And this was supposed to be an eternal, infinite substance from which all things emerge and to which they ultimately return. And then cosmic justice. Anaximander believed that the emergence of opposites, hot, cold, wet, dry, they created an injustice that had to be corrected by those opposites eventually returning to the apeiron. It's like he invented karma. And then he saw the Earth as a cylinder. He proposed that the Earth was shaped like a cylinder, floating freely in space, not supported by anything, and it was a big step from Thales' flat Earth floating on water deal. It's as if Anaximander was playing Minecraft while everyone else was still stuck in 2D. Fun facts, Anaximander is credited with creating the first map of the world and the first celestial globe, showing the patterns of the stars. He suggested that humans evolved from fish, which is surprisingly close to modern evolutionary theory. He stumbled onto Darwin's ideas 2 millennia earlier, and he was into evolution before it was cool. Such a hipster. He is also credited with introducing the gnomon, which is the vertical stick in a sundial, to Greece, making him the ancient Greek equivalent of a watch salesman. His importance lies in his willingness to propose abstract principles to explain the world. His concept of the apeiron as an infinite, undifferentiated substance was a major step towards more abstract philosophical thinking. He opened the door for philosophers to start thinking about things that can't be directly observed, paving the way for later concepts like Plato's forms. And then following Anaximander, we have Anaximenes. Try saying both of those 5 times fast. And he decided to bring things back down to earth, or at least to the air around us. So some of his key ideas, first is that the air is the arche. He proposed that air was the fundamental substance of all things. It's like he took a deep breath and thought, this stuff's pretty good, and it's everywhere. And so he believed that air could transform into other substances through processes of rarefaction, which was kind of thinning, and condensation, which was thickening. He saw the earth as flat again, so he went back to the idea of a flat earth, but instead of floating on water, he thought it rode on, you won't guess this, air. Like he invented the hoverboard for planets. And then in Anaximenes, he believed that the human soul was made of air, and that this was what gave life to being. It's like he thought we were all just really complicated balloons. A few fun facts. He used the analogy of breath to explain his theory. He said breath can be hot or cold, depending on whether it's relaxed or compressed. He's credited with distinguishing planets from fixed stars, which was a major astronomical breakthrough. And then legend has it, he could predict changes in the weather based on the appearance of the sky, making him the ancient Greek equivalent of a meteorologist, or at least an old man who says, it's about to rain, my knees hurt. His importance lies in his attempt to provide a more scientific and mechanistic explanation for changes in the world. By proposing processes like rarefaction and condensation, he was trying to explain how one substance could become another without resorting to some type of mystical transformation. It's like he was laying the groundwork for understanding states of matter, even if he was a bit off on the details. Now let's turn to the one you probably already know, the most famous name, or one of the most famous names in ancient philosophy, Pythagoras. Yes, that one. The one with the theorem and the triangles that haunted your high school geometry class. Big idea, it's not going to shock you, numbers rule everything. Pythagoras and his followers believed numbers were the fundamental principle of all things. They looked at the world and saw a giant math equation. They thought that by understanding numbers and their relationships, they could understand the universe itself. Second is harmony of the spheres. The Pythagoreans believed that the movement of celestial bodies produced a kind of cosmic music inaudible to human ears, as if the universe was just one big silent disco. And then the transmigration of souls. He believed in reincarnation, or at least the transmigration of souls. He claimed to remember his past and even recognized the shield he had carried in a previous life as a warrior at Troy. Talk about the real revenge of the nerds. Some fun facts. He founded a semi-religious cult that had some pretty strict rules, like for instance, they weren't allowed to eat beans. Why? Because beans are the magical fruit, and the more you eat, the more you... I'm kidding. Actually, we're not sure why they couldn't eat beans, but it is probably the earliest recorded case of someone saying, no thanks, I'm off the beans. The Pythagoreans discovered irrational numbers, and they kept it a secret because it didn't fit with their philosophy, so they definitely lost oral points. Cap. That was for the 5 of you under 18 watching this. I appreciate you. Legend has it that Pythagoras could be in 2 places at once and had a golden thigh. Oh, serious multitasking. But his importance, it does extend beyond his theorem. His ideas that mathematical relationships underline reality has been enormously influential in the development of science and philosophy. From Plato's forms to modern physics, search for elegant equations to describe the universe, we can actually trace a line back to Pythagoras. So he gave us the cheat codes to the universe, even if we're still trying to figure out how to use them. And last but not least, we come to Heraclitus. He was known as the weeping philosopher because of his pessimistic view of human nature. He was the original Goth philosopher. Philosophy is not a phase, Mom. His first big idea is that everything flows. He's famous for saying, no man ever steps in the same river twice. He believed that change was the fundamental nature of reality. Sort of like he saw the world as one big lava lamp, constantly shifting and changing. Righteous dude. He would have loved Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And then the unity of opposites. He believed that seemingly opposite things were actually connected and interdependent. Day and night, hot and cold, life and death. All part of the same dance. He invented the Western version of yin and yang, if you will. And then the Logos, he proposed that there was a universal principle of reason and order underlying all things which he called the logos. It's like he thought the universe had its own operating system, and he was trying to figure out the code. Few fun facts: he wrote his philosophy in deliberately obscure and paradoxical language, earning him the nickname the Obscure. It's like he was the ancient Greek equivalent of that one friend who always posts cryptic status updates. He reportedly survived on a diet of grass and herbs, which probably didn't do much for his mood or bowel movements. No wonder he was weeping. And legend has it that Heraclitus died by covering himself in cow dung to cure an illness. And if it's true, it's a reminder that even great philosophers can have really stinky ideas sometimes. But his importance lies in his emphasis on change and becoming rather than static being. His ideas about flux and the unity of opposites been influential in both Eastern and Western philosophy. From Hegel's dialectics to modern process philosophy, we can see those echoes of his thought. It's like he was the first to say the only constant is change, and philosophy and philosophers have been wrestling with that idea ever since. So what is their legacy? These pre-Socratic philosophers, they might seem a bit wacky to us now. Their ideas about everything being made of water or air or the universe being a giant musical instrument, but their impact on Western thought can't be overstated. First is naturalistic explanations. By seeking natural rather than supernatural explanations for phenomena, these thinkers laid the groundwork for both philosophy but also science. They were some of the first to say, hey, maybe there's a rational explanation for it. And then abstract thinking. By proposing unseen principles, like Anaximander's apeiron or Heraclitus' logos, they paved the way for abstract philosophical concepts. They were teaching the Western mind to think beyond what it could directly observe. And then systematic inquiry, their attempts to find a single principle to explain all of reality, it did lead to more systematic ways of thinking about the world. Then critical thinking, by questioning traditional explanations and proposing alternatives, they fostered a spirit of critical inquiry that's at the heart of philosophy. They were the first to say, but why, to everything. And then influence on later philosophy. These thinkers influenced later Greek philosophers like Plato and Aristotle, who in turn shaped much of Western philosophy. So they sort of started this philosophical chain reaction, and it's still going today.